Hello everyone, Palladium has released the 850 update, patch 850 patch notes. So it appears that Epic Champion Empowerment is arriving earlier than expected. I'm expecting that this will arrive alongside with the Fusion or around that. I think they wanna make the Epic Champion Empowerment available for Synthronos' next rotation. Right, we have finished the full rotation of the filters now, and yeah, Epic Champion Empowerment is of course going to make life very much easier, especially in those rooms that do not allow legendaries in. So they have stated that the Epic Champions will receive a lower amount of stats on anything but the base stats. So the HP, the attack, and the defense received will be the same as the legendary and mythical counterparts, which is 10% per empowerment. So if you empower it, let's say 3 times, you're gonna receive 30% HP attack and defense on top of the base. But it doesn't increase the base; it just gets added as a bonus, right? Because if it was added to the base, if it actually increased the base, it would have been the champions would go insane survivability and damage levels. So there is that. I'm just telling this to you without empowerments. The people with empowerment would probably know, but I mean, if you're like me and without empowerments or without almost without empowerments, that's I think something to remark upon. But accuracy, resistance, crit damage, speed, that sort of stuff would be lower. So on empowerment 4, legendaries receive plus 15 speed. I'm guessing we are gonna have like plus 10 speed on epics. Yeah, we'll need to see. And obviously we should stop feeding good epics from this point on. I mean, I would advise you to not feed any epics until your faction guardians are full for that one faction. But after that, it's not a bad idea. But you should definitely not feed good epics, because you could feed them. So for example, you have a Mist-Rider deity and you get another, and you feed that Mist-Rider deity to the other one to empower it. It could be, it's a very good idea. So we have some tavern quality of life improvements which we have discussed. So we can now look in the vault and the reserve vault in the tavern without opening the vault and transferring them. We can do multiple ascensions all at once. You don't need to spam that space button or have to manually click over and over. You can now use as many books as you would like of each kind. So for example, you could take your Kale and say use 12 rare books on it, right? You are not limited by 6, and there would be not multiple booking sessions now. You can just get your champion done in one fell swoop, even if it's Alika, the master librarian, who she takes 20 books, right? I think she's the champion in the game. There is no one that's higher. We can also feed multiple champions at once, as you can see, more than 6. We can also rank up multiple champions at once. That's going to be a huge lifesaver. Imagine dumping tons and tons of having lots of level 22 star champions, and you could rank them all up at once, right? Be careful to not overshoot, of course. And there is this filter which is very nice. I'm sure everyone knows the feeling of having too little force brews and too many void brews. So this can be used to combat that. If you give your if you do this priority order, that is the default here, as you can see, it means your force champions will be sacrificed first when you are ranking up champions. That means fewer of your force champions will be leveled, and therefore fewer force brews will be used. And if you level the void champions will not be used, and therefore you can use more brews. So I'm doing something of the sort myself. What I do is I never sacrifice for void champions on rank 3. I always get them to level 30. I rank them up to 4 stars, and then I give them their brews, and then I sacrifice them, so my brew distribution is balanced. And yeah, it works, right? It used to be double, and now it is quite more balanced, although not exactly. And there is also a rarity priority, which determines what you should be using. So in the example we have here, the chickens, the proper chickens of the proper rank are used first, then uncommon champions are used, then common champions are used, and rare champions are not used at all, which you could tailor to your needs. And there is also 4 nice boxes up there which will prevent you from sacrificing champions that you didn't want to. So for example, guys, what I do is when I'm leveling up champions, I put a hard tag on the champions that I am leveling, I will level, or I might want to level, right? And because of that tag, there is the third box says sacrifice champions with tags. As long as I don't click on it, I will never sacrifice a champion I don't want, right? There is also, of course, the champions with gear, champions who are booked, champions who are ascended. So, these are pretty nice. You will not be feeding champions that you don't want accidentally. We have comment on this. So there is a new clan rank. As you know, we have soldiers, deputies, and the clan leader, right? And soldiers are regular members of the clan. Deputies are people who can invite others and do a few extra things. I don't think they can set the clan message of the day and change the power, but they have some extra abilities, right? And the lieutenant strips them away from this, so the lieutenant is only able to invite people to the clan. So if you have someone as a clan leader that you don't and like, but also not know them very well and don't trust them to be a deputy, now you can make them a lieutenant. And also the number of deputies, I think it was 3, now it's 5. We can have 5 deputies in the clan. This is welcome, right? It's not a big deal, but it's also, not a bad improvement. So now the news will be split in two. So the featured news will be the old news as we know it, right? Gear class is coming, new champions are coming, fusion event is coming, etc. And the general news will be, champion spotlight, sneak peek videos, as they say. Okay. That's not bad either, because sometimes, guys, I go back to see, for example, to check out how many Titan points I could miss on a Titan event, and it will be kicked out because there are so many news, right? This will make them persist a little more. Not bad. So we have 2 champion rebalances, which we have a video on. If you're curious to see my take, you can watch the video. Kleidna and Hakon are getting rebalanced. Kleidnas are pretty good, the changes. For Hakon, basically it's doing nothing. It's a little bit sad. So we have an epic and a rare, and considering Vault Keeper Vixwell's fusion is going to be a regular fusion, I'm guessing this will be the fusion epic and this will be the fusion rare, which means from events we will be getting 16 of these rares. We will be fusing these 16 rares into these 4 epics, and then we will be fusing those 4 epics into Vault Keeper Vixwell. So what does he do? 70% of stealing buff, not very impressive. AoE removes debuffs from himself and also removes buffs from enemies. Okay. Attacks one enemy and increases the damage if he doesn't have any debuffs. Also, he will ignore unkillables if he has no debuffs. Okay. And if he has no debuffs, he has 50 more accuracy. Okay. 30%. This is just a mediocre epic. I don't think he's Synthronos worthy. We are just going to use it for the fusion. If we are talking about Force Affinity, Sylvan Watchers, attack champions, there is Pan and there is Deity who are way better. So there is no need for this fella. The rare is a void, which will mean something in the champion chase. Every TEDx the Restless that we claimed during the champion chase, that is, I think, gonna arrive this Friday, so we won't be able to claim too many, but they will be worth 50 points in the champion chase. I mean, if we can grab 4 and fuse 1 epic, that's gonna be, some profit. It's gonna mean 450 points, not bad at all. So it does not read like a rare, right? TEDx the Restless, even with the title and whatnot, and he has quite a lot of abilities. The A1 does increase accuracy buff on him. He does AoE provoke with a 75% chance, which is also pretty great again for a rare. And finally, he places the weak strengthen and a counter attack on himself. Okay. Not bad, but so problem is, guys, so whenever we read the champion, I'm like always thinking about, Synthranos. And the problem is, when you have Void, you have so many good champions you can bring. It's not worth a lot, right? Non-void ones, colored ones are a tad bit better, I would say. I don't think this champion has any particular value either. So we have the second Skinwalker mythical, who is I think the 17th mythical champion in the game. It's a chicken. So it's defense-based, force affinity, obviously Skinwalker's mythical champion. So the A1 does decrease speed, and when he is counterattacking with the skill, the damage is also going to be based on the enemy max HP. So guys, this is very serious, right? This is, I think, the second enemy max HP based A1 in the game after Acrisia, and Acrisia is a little bit conditional. I mean, her passive allows it to do so. Other than that, I don't think we have any max HP based A1. So guys, A1 is very important because, you can do it as much as you like. But of course, it's counter attack only. But thing is, this screams Hydra, right? The second ability, he provokes everyone. And if he's provoking a boss, he actually provokes it for 2 turns. Now this screams Hydra because there are, I think, 2 provocable bosses in the game. That is the Head of Decay in Hydra and Magma Dragon, and I don't think you would need a mythical champion to beat up Magma Dragon. And he also places an unkillable buff on himself and a 2-turn counter attack. The cooldown is 3 turns, so if you have 1 buff extender, this can kind of be a permanent thing. And with the counter attack buff, he gets it and he retaliates with the A1. That's going to do enemy max HP based damage, which will mean hundreds of thousands of damage depending on the modifier. This is pretty great. The A3 is a little bit interesting, weird / weird. Restores HP, nice, but this is not something you need for Hydra. People get confused about this. You can just not have this at all, right? Because the amount of HP that gets destroyed is not too much, right? Like 20% maybe. I mean, you can live and do the fight just like that. Also place Revive on Death and increase defense. I suppose the increased defense is gonna increase the damage. Yeah. I mean, for Hydra guys, I think unless the ability is extremely good, I would rather do damage every time I take a turn, right? I don't like non-damaging abilities in Hydra too much. But, this guy is a little bit exceptional. I think we can make an exception for him. He changes turns, and the passive is also great. He reflects 50% of the damage. If the attacker is a boss, he reflects 100% of the damage, and also gets healed by 50% of the damage he receives. That is pretty insane. I mean, we counterattack with enemy max HP, and also we reflect 100% of the damage, and we get healed by 50%. Keep in mind, though, reflect is different than Geomancer's deflect. Geomancer deflects the damage based on the damage without receiving the damage and before any sort of damage mitigation occurs. Reflect only works on hard taken damage, right? Even the shield doesn't work. If you have, let's say you have a 30,000 shield on you and the guy hits you for 50k, and the reflect will be based on 20k, right? Actual damage taken So, you don't want to bring shield buffs alongside with this guy. And he has a 35% defense order, which is the best in the game. I think Meris is tied for this. I think Alaz is tied for this. There are very few champions that do this. And let's take a look at his alternate form. The alternate form is a defense as well. So yeah, the alternate form is a nuker. Attacks one enemy and places an extra hit on all enemies under decreased defense debuffs, which is great, right? Extra hit on all enemies. AoE A1. Second ability is attacks everyone, places a decreased defense before attacking. That's great because that means he's gonna deal more damage, right? Also, the damage increases by 10% for each enemy under a decreased defense debuff. So you gotta bring this guy to, let's say, a Synthronos wave. He's gonna do decreased defense on everyone and then does 50% increased damage, right? And the decreased defense is going to increase damage by quite a bit as well, which means he's gonna deal a ton of damage, and also steals 20% turn meter from each enemy, means he's gonna get 100% turn meter back, which means he's gonna play shortly after. Great ability. Attacks all enemies, damage increases by 15% for each buff on target. That's not very PvE like. And decrease duration of element buffs by 2 turns. Well, he is full AoE, sort of, yeah. Pretty nice. Okay. So enemies under decreased defense debuffs cannot play stun, sleep, fear, true fear, provoke, freeze, or petrification debuffs on this champion. That's interesting. But guys, debuffing in PvP is very hard, right? It's not very easy. There are a lot of champions that have a lot of defense, resistance, right? There is a lot of stone skin around, so yeah. I'm not gonna suggest this guy for PvP. And if he kills anyone with his A2 or A3, when they have decreased defense, immediately resets the cooldown. So guys, you do the decreased defense and you kill someone and the cooldown is immediately reset. Yeah, I mean, absolute trash clearer. And this guy is absolute Hydra. Very nice. Very nice. These are putting poor Frolny to shame though. Pretty nice. Right? And guys, even if you get Frolny, there is no mythical that you would be getting sad upon receiving, right? All mythicals are pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Dunelord Gregor, Force Affinity Defense Champion from the Barbarians faction. So we have some more new champions that are coming. A1 is a 50% provoke, okay. Attacks everyone, decreases the enemy buff duration, and increases buff extender, okay. Also places shield buff, 20%. So guys, I don't like that too much because he's defense based, right? I want to give this guy a ton of defense and not way too much HP. So 20% shield based on his HP is not extremely good. Oh, he is the Barbarian faction unit. I didn't see that. Okay, he places an increased attack buff and increased accuracy buff on everyone, and this is the Barbarians Unity faction, which means he won't be normally available from shards, which means we are going to get an event for him soon after the release. Okay, decrease the cooldown of all ally skills except this champions by 1 turn. So that guys, in case you are not familiar with the Unity champions, the ability gets extra sub abilities if you have barbarians in the team, right? If you have one more barbarian, obviously one more, he doesn't count, right? So let's say you have this guy and Chronam, and the first ability will activate. You have Jamarsa, the second one will activate, and you have Valkyrie, and of course you can imagine that becomes quite a bit of an ask, right? You have to have 4 barbarians on a team. Could work in certain situations though. Definitely not in PvP, obviously. Okay, what does he do? He does a Painkeeper. He reduces the cooldowns of everyone by 1 turn. Gives everyone 20% turn meter. And he gives an instant turn to the highest crit damage ally except himself. and it's gonna go down to 4-turn cooldown. Well, of course, guys, you know, instant turn effect is, I think this is the second champion that has that effect, right? Shu Zhan is the other, but you know, it's extremely conditional to say the least. I don't think it's gonna work, no. I mean, it's nice, right? Maybe you can do it in some Synthronos rooms or anything, but yeah, it's not very good. Okay, let's see the passive. When attacked, has a 20% of placing a provoke, occurs once per hit. So, oh yeah, multiple hits means multiple chances, okay. And the passive has factional things as well. Allies deal 25% more damage to enemies under hard CC effects. Stun, sleep, fear, true fear, provoke, freeze, petrification. Okay. If there are multiple, okay. Okay, not bad. 2 allies. Allies ignore 50% of target's resistance. Oh, okay. That's good, but it's not going to cut it for PvP, guys. So thing is, guys, it's not going to work in PvE, right? It's going to work in Synthronos Trash Waves only. And it is good there, but you know, Synthronos Trash Waves, you know, you generally say this for epics, right? You do not want special legendaries for Synthronos Trash Waves. And obviously also Doom Tower, right? I mean, Doom Tower is a little bit, you know, most people are farming Doom Tower now, right? We have been getting stronger. And finally, when counter-attacking, instant effects and debuffs placed by ally skills cannot be resisted or blocked. Instant effect means, you know, cooldown increase, block revive, turn meter reduction. When we are counter-attacking, turn meter. But guys, of course, the problem is we have no counter-attack on this champion. That's so weird and weak. So I have to bring someone else that will allow me to counter-attack, right? Hint, hint, Valkyrie. So weird. I mean, he unlocks an ability that he cannot trigger by himself. Yeah, I would say very weak overall. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I get him because, you know, these champions cannot be obtained from shards, so it is, I suppose, value to the account, but nope, I'm not very impressed. I mean, I was impressed with Aeslin, and even he turned out to be not very good. You know, guys, forcing people to bring 3 more of the same faction is too much, right? So, for example, if it was 2 more for Aeslin, you could do Taras and Marichka maybe, but yeah. The aura is 25% defense and 40 more additional defense, for 25% defense and 40 more accuracy for barbarians only. Okay. Okay, we have a scary looking Void Dwarf lady. Void Dwarf support. Let's see. Attacks one enemy, has a 60% when booked chance to instantly activate the continuous heal buff on each ally. That's a weird day one, okay. Increase speed, 2 continuous heal buffs for 2 turns, and fills the turn meters by 20%. Nope, I don't think that's enough. It's not bad, but it's not a Void Legendary that I would want. Revives everyone with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. Oh, and an ally attack. An ally attack on the enemy with the lowest HP. Such a very, very weird skill. So guys, this skill should definitely have been usable if you have no dead allies, but I feel like it's not. Very weird. Right? I wouldn't want this. I mean, I would love it. I would love it. I would love to get a Void Legendary, so I would certainly be okay with this one, but it is not a Void Legendary I would want. Yeah. I would say she's like average maybe. Oh, okay, there is something. I need to read the passive before commenting. Whenever a continuous heal buff activates on an ally, all allies get 5% turn meter. Okay, that makes it a little bit better. At the end of this champion's turn, increase duration of continuous heal buffs or random ally except this champion for 1 turn. Okay, maybe this makes it a little bit better. I mean, we will certainly use lasting gifts on this champion, you know, increased 30% chance of increased buff duration. So the A1 can give you like 20-25% turn meter on the entire team, right? Because 60% chance of activating, he does them, right? Then he activates them. And also, of course, she puts them, right? Someone else takes the turn, and everyone gets 5%. Okay, now I shut up. Okay, she's good. 4-star maybe with this passive. Yeah, I didn't read the passive. I mean, the passive, it is beyond my expectations. Yeah, but the revive is so weird. It feels so awkward. Yeah, it is what it is. Giath the Truth Shield, magic defense, Knights Revenant faction, where I could have told from the mask, I suppose. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit on enemies under decreased crit rate or decreased crit damage debuffs placed by this champion. What awful specificism. It's not like those debuffs are, very common anyway. I mean, you should be clapping me if I have decreased crit rate, decreased crit damage placed not by this champion. The extra rate is always normal and will ignore. Oh, that's why. Okay. 50% defense ignore. But doesn't crit. Okay. Also places an increased defense buff on himself. That's an awful lot for an A1. Okay. I like it. Attacks all enemies. Buff extends. And also increases damage by 5% for each extended buff. That can mean a lot of damage, right? In Hydra, that can mean more than 100% damage, right? If you have 5 buffs on the team, that's going to be 30 buffs that have their duration extend. Yeah, I know it's a little bit optimistic, but I am making a grand example. That's going to mean 150% damage bonus. That's good. Okay. Place a reflect damage on all allies. Ally protection. Okay. Wow. That's so much. Reflect damage on everyone. Ally protection on everyone but himself, the usual, or herself. And also gets strengthen and increase resistance on herself. That is a lot. And on a 3-turn cooldown. Yeah. So I'm guessing she does decrease crit rate, decrease crit damage with her passive somehow. Whenever an ally under a reflect damage buff is attacked, place a 30% decrease crit rate debuff and a 30% and oh, that's very powerful. And is very powerful. Decrease crit rate and decrease crit damage. And cannot be resisted. Wow. Well, that is pretty nice. Of course, guys, in most PvE content, the decreased crit damage becomes redundant because the crit rate on most AI controlled champions is only 15%. So after you put the 30% decreased crit rate, they won't be critting. But there are exceptions like Amius and Phantom Shogun. They have a 50% chance. So that will bring their crit rate down to 20%, and their crit damage will go down to 20%. So even if you do get crit, you will not be receiving that extra damage. That's pretty nice. Cannot be resisted is awesome. So this means Hydra will not be critting on you, I think. Yeah, pretty good Hydra champion. I like her. 25% defense aura. That's mediocre, I would say, as an aura. Well, these days all around auras are a little bit more valuable because we have a lot of areas, right? And we have finally Glaykad of the Meltwater, another support champion for Sylvan Watchers. I'm going to tear my hair out, guys. Why are they doing this, right? I mean, they desperately need, damaging champions, right? And we get support after support after support. There is Elva, there is Vyren the Silken, there is Eostrid now, there is tons, and even the HP and defense based are pretty supportive. Yeah, there are so few damaging champions. There is Ail, I think, as a legendary. There is Daithian Pan as epics. Yeah, the faction needs some damage. Okay, what does he do? Boreal Bolt attacks one enemy twice. Each hit has a 50% chance of freezing. if the target has 50% HP or less, this debuff cannot be resisted. So if it said 50% HP or more, this champion would have been insane. Yeah, it doesn't go up to 100%, right? No, it wouldn't be insane. Well, it's a nice ability. 50% is pretty nice, but 2 hits is not, right? Because I'm immediately thinking of Fire Knight. Very good for trash, obviously. Because, guys, if you do 50% freeze twice, the combined chance goes up to 75%. That's very high. And if you have the increased freeze, stun, whatever, mastery, then it will go to 80% chance of freezing with the A1. That is pretty good. You can, hold someone down. If you give relentless to him, you can actually keep a lot of guys under control. So he does increase attack on everyone. He puts perfect veil on everyone except for himself. A Duchess wannabe. Okay. And then he fills the termites of allies by 50%. That is a bad Duchess wannabe. Because, guys, the Duchess does increase attack, perfect veil on everyone else, and block debuffs. So I think block debuffs is worth more than 15% turn meter. But yeah, it's a cheap Duchess wannabe. I don't have Duchess, maybe I'll get this guy. He revives everyone with 40% HP and 25% turn meter, okay. Dan places. Oh, okay. Okay, maybe I should read the whole champion before trash talking the guy, right? He is pretty good. So the thing is, he revives everyone with 40% HP and 25% turn meter. But you can use the skill if you have no dead allies, and he places 50% increased accuracy and 60% increased defense on everyone. And if you didn't revive anyone, he's going to get an extra turn. That's pretty insane, right? So, if you have no dead allies, it means increased accuracy, increased defense, an extra turn. Yeah, okay. And finally, allies under a perfect veil buff placed by this champion deal 10% more damage. Well, that's pretty good. Allies under a perfect veil buff placed buff this champion deal an additional 10. So weird. I suppose Duchess counter. So if you have perfect veil from this guy and you are attacking enemies under veil or perfect veil, you deal an additional 10%. Now, that's awfully specific and not very necessary, I suppose, but 10% damage is of course nice. And has an exactly same aura with Duchess, 19%. Well, I'm not getting Duchess, maybe I could get this guy. He doesn't measure up to Duchess, but I think he is, slightly worse, and Duchess is so good, slightly worse is good, right? And the extra turn on the revive is good. The buffs are very good on the revive, but guys, different from the Duchess, he doesn't place veil on the revive, right? I mean, if we say the A2 and Duchess A2 are compatible, yeah. And also, guys, Duchess is a has a pure synergistic kit. She does not utilize accuracy. You can go hard on resistance and survivability on her. This guy also does freeze, which means you will either ignore this ability and not give him accuracy, or you will give him accuracy and then you will lose out on the resistance or survivability. Yeah. But still, yeah, I would like to get him. Wouldn't mind. Vixwell, we have talked about Vixwell, right? We have talked about on each voting phase and also then on the champion himself. You can find the video in the channel. And that is it about the upcoming changes in patch 850, guys. And I will see you on stream. Bye-bye.